Good afternoon, guys. It is April 30th, 2022. On this video here, I want to talk about um, just what I, some of what I preach here. I want to talk about just cars and things like that. Um, and I'm in no way really passionate about cars, really. I mean, I am passionate about keeping them running and, you know, lasting as long as they can, because, I mean, cars are expensive, super expensive. Um, and, um, I want you to just think about, I want you to just ask yourself this question. What is the purpose of a car? What is the whole purpose of a vehicle? It's to get you from point A to point B at the end of the day. Now, this is something that I just think about because I see a lot of people, and if you don't agree with me, that's okay. But I'm just going to tell you what I think right now, and I'm not attacking anybody. A car only goes down in value. It does not increase in value. It does not, it only depreciates. So I think about, just from a financial aspect, you know, why would I spend a lot of money on a car? Now, outside of your home, your car is the second most expensive item that you buy. It's the most expensive depreciating item that you buy. And to me, a car is just a tool. It is not a status symbol. I honestly do not care what my car looks like. I don't care if it's old and beat up. I don't care what it is. As long as it drives, and it drives safely, and, you know, and I'm not talking about safety as in like, oh, new safety features of the day. I'm telling you, if it was safe back when it was made, and it's still up to those same standards, it's safe. Now, I will say that, I'm not talking about like different types of cars. I'm just talking about new versus old here. Because this is something that I've never really liked. Growing up, I've said this in past videos. Growing up, my parents have never, ever bought a brand new car. Ever. And still to this day, we have not. They have not. And, you know, we've had cars that are literally 15, 20 plus years old. And are they perfect? No, not always. Do they start and run? Most of the time, yes. Do they serve what we need them to, for what we need them to do? Yes. So, my biggest thing is bigger investments like that. I just don't see the reason to be so consumed with, oh, I have to get a new car all the time. You know? And to be honest, I mean, I'm not attacking anybody, and I'm not saying that nobody should do this. But I see it a lot, especially here in the United States. Here, as Americans, we have become so obsessed with our cars. I've noticed. It just boggles my mind how insanely obsessed people are with cars. You know, if it's not new or it's not pretty, they think, oh no, I'm not gonna drive that. You know? There are people in other countries that have absolute crap for cars compared to what we have here in the United States. So, you know, I just think about it that way. As long as it starts, that's all that matters at the end of the day. As long as it starts, and it drives, and it runs, and it's in good shape, that's all that matters. Now, my only thing is, if a vehicle is number one totaled, or if it's just flat out not worth fixing, like an engine blows or a transmission goes out or something like that. You know, it's just something that I think, you know, people just don't understand the concept of using things and getting the full life out of them. You know, and this is something that I've just been passionate about because growing up, this is what we've always done. We literally drive cars until the wheels fall off. Always have. And that's one thing that I will do. You know, I will not give up a car or replace a car until they literally stop driving. You know, it's just one of those things that I think about and just keep it simple because at the end of the day, all a car is doing is taking you from here to there. I mean, that's just the way I see it. And it just blows my mind because at the end of the day, you know, what is the point of trying to impress other people? There's really no point in it because it's a losing battle. You know, this whole keep up with the Joneses kind of attitude, oh, what kind of car is sitting in their driveway, or what kind of, thing do they got going on over there, or over here, or whatever. You know, oh, Sally got a brand new car today. Oh, I mean, I just hate this competitive world that we're living in, and that we have lived in. And, I think we can all do it to an extent with certain things. I mean, I don't think anybody's immune to this at all. But, this is one thing that I just think about because, I've even seen young people my age gripe about cars that are older because they think, oh, well, it's just not going to look good. Let me tell you one thing. If your car actually drives and it has heating and air conditioning, let me tell you, you're in real good shape. You have it so pretty. Because my parents' last car actually had no air conditioning and overheated a lot and smelled like it was burning half the time in the summer. And you know what? We still drove it. We drove it until it literally just died and the transmission went out. And by that point it wasn't worth fixing because we had already tried to get it fixed and it just wasn't fixing. And then the transmission was just the last straw, and, several $1,000s for a transmission on something that's not even worth, $1,000, it just makes no sense. So, I mean, there does come a time and a place where you need to make those decisions, but that's the other thing is car payments. I will not have a car payment. It's not gonna happen. I mean, I will walk before I ever have a car payment. Before I ever even have debt of any kind. For the most part. I will just do without because I just refuse to go into debt. I refuse to take out loans. I refuse to charge things on a credit card. I just refuse. Flat out. And, this is just something that I think our culture just doesn't understand. And I think about, back in the Depression days, our ancestors and grandparents and anybody who might be related to us that we actually know, who went through the Depression, they couldn't just go out and get whatever they wanted. Some of them didn't have cars at all. I mean, that was like the 1930s, so cars were just getting started. I mean, they weren't nearly as common as they are now. But if somebody did have a car, it was most likely not too pretty. You know, people were just barely getting by. And they had to do what they had to do. You know, I just think about that because we've just become a society that just is so obsessed with, you know, all the bells and whistles, everything has to be new, everything has to be best in class, everything has to be high end, everything has to be fancy, and it's just not true. I mean, I've lived all my life with cars that we've literally drove for 10 years straight. Long time. And, you know, sometimes my parents had issues, and they were like, okay, well, what do we do to fix this? You know, issues with cars. Um, and you know what? Sometimes it was easy, sometimes it was a little more tough, and it was a bigger repair. But I will say that the cost of a new car doesn't even come close to outweighing the cost of repairs on an older car. 99.999% of the time. Not even remotely close. And if I ever buy a car, I'm not spending more than $3,000 to $5,000 on a car. Cash. Only cash. Because to me, it's just not worth it. You know, I just look at it as like, okay, so what happens if you get in an accident? You know, you spent all that money and something really happens to it. I mean, people get so upset about their cars being so badly damaged in car accidents. And some people just lose their minds over it. And I'm just like, get over it, okay? You know, I'm sorry, I'm just ranting here because this is something that just bothers me. But if you only spent $3,000 to $5,000 on a vehicle, is it really that big of a deal if something catastrophic like that happens? Probably not. You could easily have $3,000 to $5,000. Most people could easily have that. Um, Sitting in an emergency fund, ready to go, and you just replace that car. You know, not to mention the cost of insurance, the cost of repairs, everything like that. Um, you know, it doesn't make sense to me to spend so much money on stuff that you don't even need to. And I'm not saying be a cheapskate at all. I don't think being a cheapskate, like a super cheapskate, is cool either. I mean, there's a balance. But at the same time, I do not advocate spending $20, $30, $40,000 on something that you don't have. Now, if you have all the cash in the world and you're making bank and you're rich, then by all means, do whatever you want. I don't care. But for most people, you know, just think about making wise decisions financially. You know, is this going to be a wise use of my money? You know, can I put this money, do I want to put more of this money into my house or more of this money into my car? Because honestly, my house and home is way more important to me than my car. They're both important. Both important to keep running, to keep in good shape. But where I live and where I sleep and spend most of my time, I want it to be in good shape and clean. A car, I'm just in for a few minutes a day, getting to and from places. That's it. And so, I just think about that. And to be honest, I don't think that newer cars are any more reliable than older cars. Quite honestly, I really don't. Especially if you've maintained an older car very, 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 very well and you do everything you can, I don't think it's any less reliable. You know, every car that we've had that is 10, 15, 20 years old, I've never thought to myself, oh, I wonder if this is going to start today. Never. Unless it's having a major issue. Then if it's having a major issue, then maybe I'll ask some of those questions. But if generally speaking it's been reliable, it's been repaired, it's been in good shape, and it's been going for a while, I'm not worried about it. I'm just not. Um, and, you know, that's why we have, you know, emergency funds to be able to cover the cost of repairing a car or replacing a car or anything else for that matter, an appliance, um, you know, something like that. Um, it's just, it's something that I just think about because we've become a culture where we're just chasing the latest and greatest. We're so consumed with comparing ourselves to everybody else that we go into debt for things that we do not need, that we can't afford, and it is putting us in a bind. It is making our lives miserable and a mess. And that's not the life I want to live. I just want to be as simple and quiet and calm as I possibly can. Because at the end of the day, who cares if somebody isn't happy with what you drive? That's their problem. That's not your problem. It's not your problem at all. You know, now if you do get a good brand of vehicle, in most cases you're probably not going to have too many issues. Like if you go for Honda and Toyota, they're going to last you quite a while. My grandmother, of course, she barely drove it, but for the last 20 years of her life, Um, in my entire life, now my aunt actually drives it. She bought a 2000 Honda Accord, brand new. Now, this is the one area that I think buying a brand new car, if you've worked all those years, you've worked hard, you've saved for retirement, you've done a really good job with that. Yes, if you have the money, go ahead and treat yourself. Pay for a brand new car to be the last car you buy. You know, but for people who are in their 20s and 30s and stuff, if unless you've been saving up and you have the money and you're financially in the position, you have no business doing that. I'm sorry. You know, unless you can pay cash. That's just the way I see it. Um, but, that's just kind of one of those things. And, my grandma had her little Honda Accord for 20 years. Of course, she barely drove it. She only put up to like 100,000 miles on it in 20 years. Um, which is not a lot considering 20 years. Um, and it was a Honda. You know, I never once remember her ever having an issue with that car. Not even the slightest issue. Now, yes, maybe she had a couple little repairs here and there, of course, maintenance and stuff like that, but otherwise, I don't remember her having a problem. Never. Not once. So, that's one of the only exceptions, I will say. But I want you to think about just long term financially what going into debt is going to do for you. It's really going to make your life miserable. And, you know, you just need to do the best that you can do to look well to the ways of your household and to take care of your family. And one of those ways is by avoiding going into debt at all costs. You know, unnecessary purchases such as cars that are brand new or way too expensive and things like that. The same thing goes for, your phones and everything else. I mean, it's not about impressing other people. It's about providing for your family. It's about sacrificing so that way you can support your family in the best way. Because, honestly, and I'm going to say this to any of the men out there that say, oh, well, real men, have to, drive a new car or a new truck or something because I deserve it. I'm sorry, but that's just childish of you. I'm just gonna say it. Because if that is putting you in the position to where you can't support your wife and your kids, then that is wrong. If you can't pay your bills and you can't buy groceries and you can't pay your rent and your mortgage to keep a roof over your head because you spent all that money on a car, I'm sorry, I have no patience for that. Especially when you have a wife and kids to take care of. You have a responsibility that God gave you to take care of the household, you need to man up and actually take responsibility, and that means sacrificing, you know? And I'm not saying that you can't have this stuff if you can afford it. But if that puts you in the position to where you can't support your family, you know, that's just wrong. I'm sorry. It's just wrong. So my battery's dying, so I'm gonna have to cut it off here. But um, I just wanted to talk about that because I've talked about my passion for you know mechanical things and stuff, and it also goes for financially too. It's not just oh, I just don't like new things. You know, that is part of it, but it's also just financially. You know, is it a wise use of your money? You know, so anyway, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.